Strange, isn't it, how we think of danger as something loud, sudden, and impossible to miss. We imagine screeching tires, a collapsing roof, a heart that stops in the middle of a busy street. But the truth is, some dangers whisper, almost politely, as if they're asking permission to harm you. Take something as small as a sneeze. Most people never think twice about it. It comes when it wants to come, like an unexpected guest at the door. And yet, I've seen people, maybe you've done this too, clamp their lips, pinch their nose, and force the sneeze to stay inside. It looks harmless enough, maybe even polite in a crowded room, but inside your body, a very different story is unfolding. When you hold in a sneeze, you're stopping a reflex your body has perfected over millions of years. It's a safety valve, a sudden release of air, pressure, and irritants your body wants gone. But if you slam that valve shut, the pressure has to go somewhere, and often, it's not where you'd want it to be. I remember a man I met years ago. He wasn't sick, not really, but one day, while trying to keep from sneezing in a meeting, he felt a sharp pain shoot through his head. By the time he got home, his vision was blurred on one side. The scans later showed tiny blood vessels in his eye had burst from the pressure. Not life-threatening, but a warning. And the thing about warnings is, we only notice the loud ones. What most people don't realize is that your sneeze can create a pressure spike strong enough to jolt delicate structures in your head and neck. In rare cases, it can rupture blood vessels, and if you're someone who already lives with high blood pressure or fragile arteries from years of quiet wear and tear, the risk is not zero. It's not about fear, it's about awareness. The body is like a finely tuned instrument, and when you press too hard on one string, it doesn't just make a sharp sound, it can snap. Sometimes I wonder, how many of our problems start this way? Not with a single catastrophic event, but with tiny acts of force against what the body was designed to do, holding back what was meant to flow, silencing what was meant to speak, keeping inside what was meant to be released. It's not just about sneezing. Really, it's about the way we live. How often do we trap the tension inside us? Not just in the body, but in the mind. We swallow stress, we ignore exhaustion, we push away discomfort until it grows teeth, and by the time we let it out, it's too late to choose where it bites. So the next time you feel a sneeze rising, maybe you'll remember that your body isn't your enemy. It's a partner, one that's been keeping you alive in ways you barely notice. And sometimes the most respectful thing you can do is simply let it do its job. When you hold back a sneeze, your body doesn't simply give up and forget. The air you trapped, the force you stopped, it's still there, pressing, searching for another way out. In that instant, the pressure in your chest, throat, and head can rise sharply, not for minutes, not even for seconds, but for just long enough to push against the weakest points inside you. If you could see what I've seen in the quiet glow of a scan room, you'd know that the human brain, for all its brilliance, is still delicate. It sits inside the skull like a ship on still water. And sudden changes in pressure can make those waters surge. Sometimes the vessel stays steady. Sometimes it takes on damage you don't feel until much later. There was a patient, a quiet man in his early 50s, who came in for something he thought was just a stubborn headache. He told me he'd been fine all week, except for one moment when he'd stifled a sneeze at his desk. It seemed silly to him, almost embarrassing to mention. But the scans told a story he didn't expect. Tiny spots of bleeding, so small they might have gone unnoticed, were already at work inside his brain. They wouldn't kill him, not now, but they were like small cracks in the wall of a dam. Left alone, those cracks grow, and when they give way. The flood is never gentle. I don't tell you this to frighten you. Most people hold in a sneeze and walk away unharmed. But for those with high blood pressure, fragile arteries, or a history of vascular problems, the sudden pressure can be the final nudge toward something bigger. A vessel in the brain doesn't always burst in a storm. Sometimes it bursts on a perfectly calm day. From a single sharp moment. The irony is, the body already knows how to protect you. A sneeze is one of its most forceful defenses. It's designed to push irritants out, to clear the path for clean air. By trapping it, you're turning that force inward, and inward is where your most delicate systems live. I've often thought that holding in a sneeze is a small reflection of how many of us live. We're taught to contain, to be proper, to avoid causing a scene, so we swallow the laugh, hold back the tears, tighten the jaw. When the body wants to sigh, each time, a little more pressure stays inside. We tell ourselves it's nothing, and maybe it is, once, twice, even 100 times, until the day it isn't. Your health rarely crumbles in a single moment. It erodes slowly, quietly, like a shoreline you only notice has receded when the fence you built years ago is suddenly standing in the waves. By then, the water's been coming for a long time, so when you feel that sneeze rise, it's not just about manners, it's about listening, noticing the ways your body is trying to help you, and understanding that the smallest choices, even the choice to let a sneeze out, are part of a much bigger conversation you're having with your own life. The thing about pressure is, it never disappears. When you hold back a sneeze, you don't erase the force, you redirect it. Like blocking a rushing river with your hands and expecting the water to politely stop. It doesn't. It finds another path. And that path is often toward places in your body that were never meant to carry it. In the head, that sudden surge pushes against the fragile network of vessels feeding your brain. Most of the time, they bend and recover. But sometimes, they give way, and when they do, it can be as small as a pinpoint bleed you'll never feel, or as big as a stroke that changes your life in a moment. But the brain isn't the only place that feels it. Your ears, with their paper-thin eardrums and tiny bones, are among the first to take the strain. I've seen people lose part of their hearing in an instant because the pressure burst through the delicate barrier between the middle and inner ear. No warning, no pain, just a faint ringing that never truly went away. The eyes, too, are vulnerable. That pressure can travel along the veins and arteries feeding the retina, and in someone with already weakened vessels from age, from high blood pressure, from years of quiet damage, it's enough to make them rupture. The result can be a red, bloodshot eye that heals in days, or a subtle loss of vision you only notice when you cover one eye and realize the world is a little dimmer than before. The heart feels it as well. Every sudden spike asks your heart to pump harder, faster. And if that heart is already carrying the load of years, thickened walls from high blood pressure, tired valves from time, it's like asking an old engine to climb a hill it never prepared for. Most days it makes it. Some days it doesn't. It's easy to think this is all about rare accidents, that unless you're unlucky, holding in a sneeze is harmless. But I've been in medicine long enough to know luck has little to do with it. It's about accumulation, a lifetime of small, unnecessary strains, each one insignificant on its own, building into a weight your body eventually can't ignore. And here's the quiet truth. Your body is not indestructible. It's a living system that remembers every force, every strain, every moment you asked it to absorb what it was designed to release. Over time, those moments become part of your story. Some people carry them as scars you can't see on the skin, but are written deep inside. So when I tell you not to hold back a sneeze, it's not about the sneeze itself. It's about the habit of turning natural release into silent pressure. Because that's a habit the body can only tolerate for so long. A sneeze is just one reflex, one moment where the body speaks without asking for permission. But when you think about it, we spend much of our lives doing the same thing with far bigger forces. We hold back our stress so others won't worry. We swallow our anger so a moment stays peaceful. We hide our sadness so no one sees the cracks. And each time we do, a little more pressure stays inside. It's not always bad. Sometimes holding back is an act of kindness. Sometimes it's a way to keep moving when the world is too heavy to carry all at once. But over years, the weight doesn't simply vanish. It gathers like unseen water behind a dam. You don't hear it. You don't see it. Until one day the wall shakes and you wonder how it happened so fast. In medicine, we have names for these sudden breaks, strokes, heart attacks, nervous collapses. But the truth is, the story always started long before. It began in the quiet, in the moments no one noticed. A lifetime of pressure, of small silences, of turning away from the signals your body tried to give. I once knew a man who never raised his voice, never argued, never let his temper show. He carried the world as if it cost him nothing. Then one morning, without warning, he collapsed in his kitchen. It wasn't the stress of that day that broke him. It was the years of strain he never let out. His blood pressure had been quietly high for so long that his vessels were like paper left in the sun. And all it took was one sharp rise, one moment of pressure too great to bear. Your body isn't just muscle and bone. It's a living record of how you've treated yourself. Every late night, every unspoken worry, every moment you told it to, just hold on, leaves its mark. It remembers, even when you try to forget. And so, something as small as letting out a sneeze becomes part of something much bigger. It's a reminder that release is not weakness, that the body's natural rhythms exist for a reason. We are meant to breathe deeply, to sigh when we need to cry when the heart grows heavy, to let go of the things that build pressure where no one can see it. Because in the end, your health is not just the absence of disease. It's the balance between what you hold in and what you let out, and that balance is what keeps you standing year after year. Your body has ways of handling stress, tiny adjustments it makes every second just to keep you alive. The heart pumps a little harder when you climb the stairs. The vessels in your brain narrow or widen to keep blood flowing smoothly when you bend down or stand up. The lungs adjust their rhythm to match your movement without you even thinking about it. But these systems were never meant to handle sudden, unnecessary spikes. When you hold in a sneeze, the air and force you trap have only one option: to push back into you. In that instant, your blood pressure can jump dramatically. The vessels in your head and neck feel it first. For most people, they bend with the pressure and return to normal. But if you live with high blood pressure, those vessels are already under strain every day. Their walls are thicker, less flexible, more brittle, like an old rubber band that cracks when stretched too far. And here's the thing most people don't realize. A vessel doesn't have to burst completely to cause trouble. A tiny tear in the inner lining can set off a chain of events. The body rushes to repair it, forming a small clot. Most of the time that clot stays put, but sometimes it travels, and when it lodges in a smaller vessel in the brain, the blood flow stops. The result is a stroke, not because of one sneeze alone, but because that one sneeze was the last straw on a load that had been building for years. The heart feels these moments too. a sudden spike in pressure makes it work harder, and if the heart muscle is already thickened from years of hypertension, that extra demand can trigger rhythm problems. For someone who's never been told they have a heart condition, it can come as a shock, but in truth, the condition had been growing quietly in the background all along. I've met people who ask, "So you're saying I could die from holding in a sneeze?" And I always tell them the same thing. No, not in the way you think. The danger is rarely in the single act. It's in the history that came before it. It's in the silent damage that's been waiting for a moment to show itself. We live in a world that teaches us to measure health by how we feel today. If nothing hurts, we think we're fine. But real health is written in the small details you can't feel. The elasticity of your arteries, the smoothness of your blood flow, the quiet steadiness of your heartbeat when no one's watching. And every choice you make, no matter how small, becomes part of that story. So when I tell you to let the sneeze out, I'm really saying something bigger. I'm saying, respect the systems that have been keeping you alive all these years. They were built to move, to release, to adjust in ways you'll never see. Don't turn their natural defenses into moments of silent strain, because one day, the moment might be small, but the consequence will not be. A sneeze held in is just one small act, but in truth, it's part of a larger pattern most of us carry without even knowing. We add tiny strains to our bodies every day, not because we want to, but because we've learned to live in ways that make them seem normal. We skip water because we're too busy to refill the glass. We eat in a rush, barely tasting the food. We sleep a little less each night to make room for one more thing that couldn't wait. Each choice feels harmless in the moment, but the body remembers them all, and what it remembers is not the single drop of water missing from the bucket. It remembers the drought that builds over years. Silent dangers are rarely dramatic. They don't announce themselves with flashing lights or loud alarms. They move quietly. High blood pressure doesn't hurt until the day it does. Stress doesn't break you until the day it tips the scale. A blood vessel doesn't weaken in an hour. It weakens in the background, day after day, while you go about your life. I've often told patients that the body is like an old bridge. It can carry weight for decades, but if every day you let a little more rust creep in, one day a sudden gust of wind, or something as small as a sneeze, can be enough to make it fail. That's why I don't just look at the act itself. I look at the life wrapped around it. Because a sneeze in a healthy body is like a wave hitting a solid wall. The water splashes and then is gone. But in a body already stretched thin by years of quiet strain, that same wave can push past the cracks and make them spread. And here's the truth we don't like to face. We are all, in some way, building up pressure inside us, not just in the arteries or the heart, but in the way we live. Every ignored symptom, every "I'll deal with it later," every choice to hold back instead of release. It all stacks together until one day, a single moment becomes the messenger for years of unspoken signals. So yes, this is about letting your sneeze out, but it's also about paying attention to the small ways you keep forcing your body to hold what it was meant to let go, because health isn't just preserved by what you do in big emergencies. It's preserved in the quiet moments, the ones no one sees. The ones that decide whether your body has room to handle the unexpected, or whether the unexpected becomes the day everything changes. There was a time in my own life when I thought I could hold everything in. The stress, the worries, the aches, both in my body and in my heart. Like many, I believed strength meant silence, that letting go was a sign of weakness, so I kept things bottled up, pushing down the tensions, the fears, the small aches that whispered for attention, One evening, after a long day, I felt a pressure building inside, not unlike the one you feel before a sneeze, but this pressure wasn't just physical. It was the weight of years of quiet strain, the long nights, the skipped meals, the unspoken worries that added one on top of another. I tried to ignore it, thinking it would pass, just like I had ignored so many other small signals before. But that night, the pressure didn't ease, it grew, pressing harder than I expected. I realized then how much I'd been asking my body to carry without pause. It was a moment of quiet reckoning, not a loud crash, but a gentle nudge that whispered, "You can't hold it all in forever." That experience changed how I see these small moments. The sneeze you hold back, the stress you swallow, the tension you hide. They all speak the same language. A language of pressure that, if ignored, quietly shapes the story of your health. I tell you this not because I am different, but because I am the same. We all carry these moments. And learning to listen, to release, to respect the natural rhythms of the body and mind, that's part of what keeps us whole. So next time you feel that rising urge, whether it's a sneeze, a sigh, or a need to speak your truth, remember, it's not just a reflex, it's a message from a body that wants to protect you, if only you let it. Our bodies carry the weight of not only the moments we hold back, but also the habits we build every day, often without even realizing. The choices that seem small, even insignificant, like how much salt we sprinkle on our food, how often we push through exhaustion instead of resting, the hours spent sitting still, staring at screens, holding tension in our shoulders. Each one of these habits quietly shapes the landscape of your health. They affect the pressure inside your vessels, the strength of your heart, the flexibility of your arteries, and the ease with which your body can handle sudden moments of strain, like that sneeze you hold back. You see, when your blood pressure is high because of too much salt or stress, your vessels become less able to bend and absorb pressure. They grow stiff, brittle, and more prone to tiny breaks. So what might have been a harmless moment before, a sneeze, a sudden cough, a bout of heavy lifting, becomes a challenge your body struggles to meet. And it's not just about what you do once in a while. It's about what you do every day. Every skipped walk, every late night, every meal eaten in a rush. They all add to the quiet pressure inside you, wearing down your defenses without a sound. I often tell my patients, real health isn't built in grand gestures or rare emergencies. It's built in the everyday choices you make, in the decision to breathe deeply instead of shallowly, to drink water instead of another cup of coffee, to notice the tension in your body instead of pushing it aside. When you begin to see health this way, that sneeze you feel rising isn't just a reflex to suppress or release. It becomes a small signal in a much larger conversation, one where you listen closely to your body and learn to move with it, rather than against it. Because the greatest gift you can give yourself is respect. Respect for the silent systems that carry you through each day, respect for the small pressures you can't see but feel, and respect for the moments when letting go isn't weakness, but courage. Change rarely comes all at once. It's not a sudden shift or dramatic overhaul. More often, it's a soft unfolding, like dawn breaking slowly over the horizon. A gradual loosening of the grip you've held on yourself for years. If you've been holding back, whether it's a sneeze, a sigh, or a weight you carry in your chest, you might wonder where to begin. The answer is simple, but not always easy. Start by noticing, just noticing, without judgment or pressure. You wake up and feel the heaviness in your head, or the tightness in your shoulders. You acknowledge it. You give yourself permission to feel it. Not to fix it right away, but simply to be present with it. Maybe that means taking a deeper breath when you feel the urge to hold it in. Maybe it's letting a laugh come through even when the room feels too quiet for it, or allowing yourself to rest when your body asks. Each small act is a thread in a larger tapestry of care. I've seen people transform not by drastic diets or exhausting routines, but by these quiet, consistent choices. A glass of water before bed, a moment of stillness in a busy day, the willingness to let a sneeze out when it comes. It's about respect, really. Respect for the rhythm your body and mind have been asking for. And patience with yourself when it feels hard. Because healing isn't a race. It's a conversation. A relationship you rebuild with each gentle choice you make. So when you feel that rising pressure next time, in your chest, your head, or even in that simple urge to sneeze, remember that letting it go is part of listening to your body's wisdom. And in that listening, you give yourself the chance to carry on with a little less strain, a little more peace, one quiet moment at a time. There is a certain power in simply being present with yourself. In noticing the subtle signals your body sends each day, not rushing past them, not pushing them aside, but meeting them with calm attention and gentle understanding. Silent health. Risks like high blood pressure, hidden vessel damage, or the pressure from holding back a sneeze are not monsters lurking in the shadows. They are quiet companions, patiently waiting for you to see them. To acknowledge their presence without fear or blame. When you learn to live with this awareness, you begin to carry yourself differently, with more kindness and patience, with a softer touch toward the rhythms of your body and mind. It's not about perfection or never holding back again. It's about learning to trust the signals, to allow the natural flow of your breath, your emotions, your body's needs. And in that trust, you find a space of peace, a space where the body can heal quietly, steadily, over time. I want to leave you with this thought. Health is not just the absence of illness. It's the presence of care, care you give yourself. In the moments others don't see, in the quiet acts of listening, releasing, and simply being. So the next time you feel that rising sneeze, or the tightness in your chest, remember, it's not just a moment to endure, but a chance to connect to your body, your breath, your life. And in that connection, you hold the greatest power to keep yourself whole, day by day, breath by breath, moment by moment. If this quietly spoke to you, if it made you pause for a moment and breathe a little deeper, then perhaps you can pass it on to someone still rushing, still holding back, still unaware of the silent pressures building inside, because we don't have to carry these things alone, and sometimes the smallest sharing can be the first step toward healing. Take your time, be kind to yourself, and remember, health is not a destination, but a gentle journey, one breath at a time, one moment at a time. Thank you for listening.